The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
Welcome to Getting to Know You. My name is Joe Nash. Today we're going to be talking about the Albany Institute of History and Art. We have with us, once again, because I've been here before, Tammis Groft, and the Executive Director, Doug McCombs, Chief Curator. So welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to be talking about, this is the 225th birthday of the Institute. There's a lot of events for the year we'll get to. But for, there's an exhibit up called Masterworks. It's culled from the library, or not from the libraries, from the institutes, 35,000 plus items. That's up until, it's going until September 4th of this year, so that's up and running. And there's also one coming starting April 30th. It's called Masterworks Paper, which Doug will explain. But before we do, there's an exhibit closing on April 3rd that was a big success. It was called The Capital Region and 50 Objects. So Tammis, why don't we start there? How did that end up going?
It's been a very popular exhibition. You know, the idea of telling you the story of the most significant people, places, and events in the capital region was a very nice construct. And we were able to bring together 50 objects, and actually Doug McCombs curated the exhibition. But I think really the idea is it ended up being a community-curated exhibition with Doug facilitating everything.
Well, you had a lot of the input of the public, right? To vote on categories.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we worked with the Times Union and asking the public what they thought were the most significant people, places, and events. But the programming has been very exciting. So, for example, we have invited our partners, and we had 37 partners altogether, 37 different organizations or people who lent objects. Okay. And the programs are that they will come and at 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, and there's a gallery tour, and the various partners will come and talk about their objects. Okay. So, for example, this past Sunday, yesterday, 4 members of the Rap Road community came to talk about their history and a skin board that was in the exhibition with a photograph of a smokehouse behind it. And then we had curators from the New York State Museum, Tony L. Palka, the city historian, talking about objects. And there are a number of these coming up because we've been focusing on the 4 counties. So there's one coming up on Schenectady and also Saratoga.
Well, the objects are from the whole capital region.
Right, from 4 counties, Rensselaer, Saratoga, Schenectady, and Albany. But it's a wonderful afternoon because you have specialists there and then their conversations and great interaction.
Well, this show might air, you might still be able to get there. It ends April 3rd. But were there any of the objects that, I don't want to say, I'm sure they were all popular, but were there a few that people really sort of glommed onto as?
Well, I would still say Nipper the dog. When people walk in and they say, "Oh, there's Nipper," well, that was the icon for the show. And you're expecting to see the large Nipper on top of the building, and we don't have the large Nipper in the exhibition, but there's a smaller statue of that, and it was lent by Nancy Carey, and she told the story of how in their home it had a little T-shirt on it called "I am a Democrat," which they took off when they lent it to the Albany Institute. Okay.
Now, Doug, are you from this area?
I'm not originally, but I've been here 11 years.
11 years. So how did you find dealing with all these objects that a lot of it you may not, like you probably never heard of Freihofers or anything like that?
Yeah, I actually have heard of Freihofers, but you know, I think it's a great exhibition not only for the people that live here in the community because they can relate to so many aspects of it, but you know, like myself, I'm an outsider, and I think for a lot of our outsiders who are coming here and really getting to know the community and getting to know what the capital Capital District is all about, it's a great overview. You really get a snapshot history, of really exciting things, nationally significant events like the Battle of Saratoga. You get a little bit of the local flavor, the local culture. So I think it's a great way to really experience who we are.
Yeah, the first radio station, WGY, right?
WGY.
That was one of them. I know.
Billiard balls, the Collar City, the Spindle City, and vicarious visions. So there are just so many different topics. You can't get bored. You're wandering through.
Well, speaking of the age of the Institute, this is the 225th year birthday. Before we talk about the Masterworks, Tammis, why don't you just tell us about how the Institute goes back to the presidency of George Washington?
Yes, I know. It's amazing to think about. But the museum was founded in 1791.
And it's the oldest museum in the country, right?
It is the oldest museum in New York State and the second oldest museum in the country, with the Museum of Art in Charleston, South Carolina, being the oldest museum. And we were able to say that we're older than the Smithsonian, older than the Louvre, and George Washington was president when we opened our doors. And we opened our doors in New York City in 1791 because all of the members of the Albany Institute, at that time it was, were members of the New York State Legislature. And the way the incorporation papers were developed, where that the Albany Institute, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute, would move wherever the New York State Legislature moved. So there was an opportunity to, talk about a variety of different agriculture, arts, and manufacturing. So in fact, the name of the museum was the Society for the Promotion of Manufacturing, Agriculture, and Arts.
Okay. Well,
so
Albany Institute sounds better.
Right, and that, it wasn't exactly a museum as we would define it today. It was really more of a learned society where people gave papers on a variety of topics.
And then what year did they come to Albany?
1797. The capital of New York State moved to Albany. The rooms of this society moved along with it and were set up in the State House, and then the Capitol.
Wow, that is a long.
And then we rented room for a while. The museum, the Albany Institute, was located at the Albany Academy building, which is still standing down in Academy Park. Then we rented space on State Street, and we bought a building on State Street, and finally built the building where we are today, which is at 125 Washington. It was built in 1907 as a museum.
You had the new addition, 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah, in 2001, we reopened with 3 floors of new storage, renovated galleries, an atrium, and then a variety of other spaces.
Well, for this year, the 225th year, you have an exhibit up. It's called Masterworks. It's culled from all your objects. Let me just give people an idea of what you guys have down there. I think in the past you've mentioned the number, but I've never seen it broken down like this. The Institute owns 35,000 objects, 1,600 paintings, 1,600 drawings, 4,000 prints, 600 pieces of sculpture, 500 pieces of furniture, 2,000 pieces of silver, a collection of 500 metal objects, pewter, copper, cast iron, 1,200 pieces of ceramics, 300 pieces of glass. This is going to take up the whole show here. 4,000 pieces of clothing and accessories, 500 textile and historical artifacts. That's just for exhibiting. Plus 85,000 photographs, 1,000 linear feet of manuscripts, 300 maps, broadsides and posters, etc. So you're choosing from this. Now, Doug, did you go through every single object to pick this?
Yeah, it sounds a little overwhelming, doesn't it?
Right.
Well, being there for 11 years now, I've become familiar with many of those objects personally. I've seen them and touched them, and I think Tammis has as well as our curator, Diane Shuchuk. And really, this exhibition, as the title suggests, it's a selection. It's
No, I didn't give the
Masterworks.
title. It's called Masterworks, 225 Years of Collecting. Okay.
Yeah. So it's really a selection. There's no way that we could show all 35,000 objects in our 5,000 square foot gallery. But what it is it's a nice breakdown and highlights of the collection, things that we have been collecting or have collected over the last 225 years actually. And the objects also range in date. We have, I think the earliest thing that we have on exhibition is a morning spoon for Kilian Van Rensselaer, and that dates to 1686.
Okay.
And then just a few weeks before the exhibition opened, a local sculptor, Larry Kagan, who was professor at RPI and has since retired, donated a full-scale version of his contemporary work called "We Are Losing Our Ozone."
Okay.
So we basically accepted that for the collection, and I think within less than 2 weeks it was up on the wall in our space.
So you're going from a spoon from the 1600 to the climate situation today.
That's right. Yeah.
So you're saying you're highlighting Masterworks. What is that?
Well,
you got painting, sculpture.
Paintings, yeah, it really varies. In this exhibition, it's objects that are primarily non-paper, and I'll tell you about an upcoming exhibition called Masterworks Paper that we're going to be opening later in April. But this exhibition, there are paintings, sculpture, furniture, silver, ceramics, glass.
A selection of what I just read here.
Pretty much a selection of what you just read.
Yeah, one of each.
Okay.
But some of our highlights obviously are Hudson River School paintings. We're known throughout the region, throughout the world really, for our Hudson River School. So there is a nice sampling of our Hudson River School paintings from Thomas Cole and Frederick Edwin Church, Jasper Cropsey, and others. And then we have things related to the early Dutch. We have early Dutch portraits that were painted of residents of the region, early 18th century. There are religious paintings that they hung in their homes. There are examples of ceramics that were like the ceramics that were excavated in many of the archaeological digs around here. So it gives you a nice, feeling of what life might have been like here in Albany, very early on.
So what was it like? Did you choose it all on your own, or did you have? How did that? Did you have a committee, or how does that?
This was a little different than the other Capital Region of 50 objects.
Right. Very different.
That was very much a community show. This one here, we sort of know our collection and have really been exhibiting, these parts of the collection over the last, many decades now. So it's really just pulling together the things that we know are sort of our masterworks that have been exhibited elsewhere, have been used in scholarly publications, things that are perennial favorites with our visitors, and that was sort of how we chose.
Now, is there anything that has never been on display before, or?
Well, like I said, the Larry Kagan sculpture, just because that came into the collection so recently. But there are things that probably have not been exhibited, in some cases probably in decades, that are now on exhibition.
And now is the bulk of these 35,000 objects, the majority, are they from the Hudson Valley area, more or less, or?
More or less. Our mission is to collect and document the art, history, and culture of the Upper Hudson Valley. So if you look at Albany and then maybe a 50, 75-mile radius around there, most everything relates to the people or the communities. Now, that doesn't mean that everything comes from the Hudson Valley. We have Chinese export porcelain that was owned by individuals from the region. We have things coming in from Japan. We have, things coming in from other parts of the world and other parts of the Hudson Valley or the United States, but in some way they have that connection to the region.
Now, I was just thinking as I asked, of course, the famous mummies aren't from this area, right?
The mummies aren't from this area, but again, we
but you're highlighting there was a connection there with the guy from Albany who went off.
Yeah, Sam Brown. But
right.
we interpret the mummies as the history of the museum because the museum purchased the mummies.
Oh, okay.
So that's how we keep those mummies, the most popular exhibition at the Albany Institute.
Okay, and then, so that's up and running until September 4th, 2016. Now you're saying starting April 30th, you have another Masterworks, again, culled from your collection. It's called Masterworks Paper. Tell
Sure,
us, what's the
sure.
focus of that?
Yeah, well, I think just as the title implies, these are works on paper or made of paper. And the reason that we've separated them is just for preservation concerns.
Okay.
You can't exhibit paper for as long as you can exhibit paintings or sculpture, for example, or ceramics. So we purposely waited. It will be a shorter exhibition, but we have some real gems that are on paper. Again, drawings and watercolors by some of the Hudson River School artists. There are
I see. So you have letters and manuscripts.
Yep, manuscripts, letters. And then the curator for that show, Diane Shuchuk, is also throwing in some things that might be a little surprising, things made of paper. So, for example, a tea caddy, a little box that you would use to store your tea in, that was made early 19th century, is made from little tiny quills of paper, little tiny coils of paper. So some real interesting things in that show.
Now, before when I was talking about everything you have, what does this mean? You had 1,000 linear feet of manuscripts. Is that what does that mean? Is that the books laid end to end, or I don't know what it is?
Or boxes later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
but, it's usually boxes of manuscript.
Oh, okay.
You talk about books as volumes, but papers that are stored in boxes, regular file boxes, if you will. So
you
that's
mean like
linear feet. That's how librarians talk about manuscript.
Oh, you mean like isn't Mayor Corning's papers there? You mean?
Oh, yes,
They're in
yes.
individual.
Yes, and regular file boxes, just what you would think, except the file boxes are acid-free, and the folders are acid-free, and the materials are stored within them. So, talking about linear feet.
We don't have those kind of things in the public library world, but I know like in presidential libraries, I think you can look things up. It'll say box 18
Exactly,
or whatever.
exactly. It's a way of organizing and finding things, which is the most important.
Okay, so those are the two big events. Oh, the other big thing is, in honor of your 225th birthday, admission on Saturdays is going to be $2.25. That already started, right?
Yes,
and
it has.
I've heard it's been very popular so far.
It's very popular. And so we have admission on Saturdays. We're also opening a cafe.
Oh, yes, that's been in the plans for a while.
Yes, but it's finally in March, mid-March, we will be opening the doors of the cafe, and there'll be the regular museum hours from 10 to 5. The cafe will be open on Thursday nights until 8 o'clock, Saturdays and Sundays, and we'll be serving pastries, cakes, croissants, and also lunch at the cafe.
And you're also having Thursday nights, admission from 5 to 8 is free, right?
Yes, it is.
But that's always been.
It's always been. But we have some great programs that are going to be coming up on Thursday nights. I think many people know Len Tantillo,
the
who
artist,
is an artist who does recreations of historic paintings, recreations of different aspects of history. And he's going to be part of a series called City of Immigrants that Albany Pro Musica and the Albany Institute are partnering with. And he'll be talking about the settlement of Albany through his paintings from the beginning of time until till now. And then Jack McEnany is also going to be speaking as part of the City of Immigrants.
When is that?
Those are in April.
April, okay.
Yes, please check our website.
If you go to the website, the number of lectures and things like that, there's a lot of them here. So you have to go to there's too many to go through here, I think.
Yes.
But Jack McEnany, he's spoken at our library a few times, very
entertaining, incredibly knowledgeable.
And he himself has written several books about Albany's history.
Yeah. And then we're also going to have a Easter egg decorating workshop, Ukrainian Easter egg, which is a real specialty, with Diane Shuchuk, one of our curators.
Well, one thing we've done in the past here, you do have a lot of programs, not just in the summer, but for kids, don't you?
Yes. We have on Saturday mornings, it's Artful Mornings, and they are going to be running until May, and it's very popular. It's for kids and adults. People come in, and there's a special art making activity every Saturday. And then we also have a vacation break in April for kids that are out of school, and there are art camps for that.
Okay. And then speaking of family events, you do have one big one that's starting. It's with people with Art Connects, people with Alzheimer's.
Yes.
What is that all about?
This has been going on for about almost a year now, and it started out as a pilot project where we have a person on staff who is able to work with people with Alzheimer's and their caregivers to come into the galleries while the museum is closed and talk about the various paintings or objects. So it's a specialized program that is advertised on our website.
Okay.
And if people are interested, they can look at our website and find out more about this program. But it is Art Connects, and it is people with Alzheimer's and their caregivers, because that's an important part of the program as well, just to be able to talk about experiences and activities.
Yes, there's a lot of stuff on the website. It's albanyinstitute.org, right?
albanyinstitute.org.
Okay. There's a lot of stuff on there. And now, Doug, since you're the curator, you've been there 11 years, do you have any, since you've gone through all 35,000, do you have any?
We have to invite you down.
I know, I've been there. No, I've been there.
For a behind-the-scenes tour.
I'd like to do that. What, do you have any favorite, I don't want to say favorite object, of course, but do you have any favorite topic, like paintings or sculptures? Do you have any favorite items down there?
You know what? I don't have favorites. I don't. They're like my children. I can't have a favorite, but I like them all.
But you don't have. Do you have a specialty when you're? Or no, you just
No. All of us who work there primarily are more generalists because we have collections that really span, centuries. Collections that are paintings, sculpture, manuscripts, historical collections.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have.
You like photography, though. I would say that is
I like photography. Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the other thing is, I was doing this morning on the website. I haven't mastered it yet because I just saw it, but you can now go to Google, or as we say in the library, the Google. You can go to the Google, and if you type in Google Cultural Institutes, I guess there's museums around the world, and you can take like a virtual. And you can go through them. Tell us about, I don't know, were you both involved in that? Or?
Well, somewhat. I mean, we have a lot of our collections that are up as part of this project.
You can literally walk through
the gallery
virtually. Is that what
that's a virtual tour.
Yeah.
That happened about almost 2 years
Oh, that's
ago.
okay.
Where they were here filming, but like everything else, it takes time.
Well, it's like the Google Maps where when you go through streets. You can
sort
go
of like
through.
street scenes. I think it's Google Street Scenes.
So do you have any idea if it's been being used or people go to it? Do you get updates from Google?
We have, and people have posted things and that type of thing. So it's a way of walking through our galleries.
Okay. It has like the little
electronic.
It's just like it has like the little triangles. You can zoom in. It takes a while to master. Were either you involved in setting that up, or did you?
Well, we were there.
We were both there. Yeah.
So how does that work? They went through with cameras and just like you're walking
on a trolley.
Really?
And literally, I think the thing that was the most challenging is how do you get this trolley, with a camera on it, to move through the floors that it made sense.
Oh, like you were walking.
Well, like you were walking through, and how best to manage that. But once they were in the galleries, it was, fairly easy.
And then now is this? This goes with museums all over the world? Is that how
it's international site.
It's the Google Art
Project.
Cultural Institute. And the Albany Institute is one of many museums. Again, they stretch all around the world. And it's not just the museum view or the street view. We also have collections there so that you can actually zoom in on collections, look at detailed information. So it's a nice way to orient people who have never been to the Institute, a little bit about who we are.
And I think you can also, because I was doing this, you can pick an object, not like you're walking through, but you can pick an object and zoom in on it. And so that was pretty cool.
And the analytics are that the most frequently viewed paintings are Hudson River School paintings. Which, really supports that interest in, from an international point of view of the Hudson River School paintings in our collection.
So we have one other thing to talk about, or a couple more. You see that you're trying to reach the millennials. Is that what they're called? You have this thing called the 1791 Club. What is that?
The 1791 Club. It's a great.
Was it right? Was it millennials?
A great name. Well, you have to be 21 to 40-ish.
Okay.
So it's a pretty broad range. And really the idea is for a group of people to come in and learn something about the museum, have a tour, talk about a particular object, and then afterwards go out for social, for dinner or drink or something like that. So community. So for example, the last 1791 club, we have an Oscar in our collection. Edwin Burke got an Oscar in 1932, I believe, 1931, for his screenplay for Bad Girl. So we all came and looked at the Oscar and then went to a screening room and watched the movie Bad Girl. Another one coming up is on Craig Ravina is going to talk about the Albany Ale that he created. So it's on a variety of different topics, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's informal. And it's a combination of learning something and social activity.
Do you usually just focus on one item or one collection?
It's all over the map.
It's all over the map?
Yeah, there are lots of different topics. One time we didn't tell anybody what they were going to see, and I talked about cast iron stoves. I think if I told them I was going to talk about cast iron stoves, they may or may not, you don't know. So sometimes it's a surprise, and sometimes it's well advertised. But it's a great way of reaching another audience.
Okay, well, it sounds like there's a lot going on down there. We got the latest flyer. We're in the library. There's a new one coming out. A lot of information on the website. Anything else? Did I miss anything this time?
Well, we have Hudson Valley Hops are coming up.
Oh, okay.
Which is our 5th annual Hudson Valley Hops, and it's really celebrating the growing interest in local breweries in our region. Of course, beer has been made in Albany since the 17th century, probably 17th century. But this year, it's very special. Many people might remember Bill Newman's Ale.
Yeah.
And it's the 35th anniversary of the opening of his craft brewery, which was the first one west of the Rockies and east of the Rockies. Sorry, east of the Rockies. Thank you.
Wait, the first. That's a big thing now all over.
Yes,
that was the first one?
of a local brewery east of the Rockies, got to remember that. And he is going to work with a brewery, and they're going to make his pale ale again. And then we're going to have celebrity tasters, and they're going to taste Bill Newman's pale ale and put it up against a lot of the pale ales that are being made today. So it's our Hudson Valley Hops is always about history, and you have an opportunity to taste, but you also learn things.
Yeah, when is that event?
April 16th.
April 16th.
Yes, and then so buy
I might
your
come
tickets.
to that. I remember Newman's Ale, actually.
Yeah, you remember Newman's Ale?
Yes.
So do I.
But I didn't know that was one of the first ones that started this whole movement that now it's all over the
yes.
The craft. This is before brew pubs and all that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And those flyers that you get when you go to a brew pub? That was all started because of this phenomenon of craft beers. You have to be, how are you going to choose?
I know.
Anyway, it's a great story, and part of our 225 anniversary, it'll be very excited to honor Bill Newman and Newman's Ale.
Okay, that was a good beer. I remember it in the 80s, right? It was the 80s. Okay. Well, thanks for coming back again. I'm sure we'll see you in the future, Doug, Tammis, and we will see you next time on Getting to Know You.